lubricant materials that they can sell all around the world to like, so they're like kind of upcycling all of this industrial waste stuff. It's way cool stuff. They also have the only 2 plants in the world that turn food grade plastic back into food grade plastic.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's the kind that, like that stuff just blows me away.
That's super cool.
So
Okay, let's do this. Yep, let's do it.
I'm excited about that one.
Are we live? We're live. Okay, good evening. Welcome to our city council meeting this evening. We are February 26th. We're going to start tonight with a Pledge of Allegiance by Kira Humphreys. Yep, yep.
All right, I'll stand. Right hand over your heart. All right, ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kara. Okay, we'll go to item 5.2. Any council comments or recognitions tonight?
I just comment and say if you ask our only guests to be the ones to say the pledge, they won't come again.
We're sorry, Kara, we're sorry. We would love to have you back, and you won't have to say the pledge next time.
Maybe.
Maybe, unless you're the only one here again. I like it. Okay, seeing no other comments, we'll go to item 6, public comment tonight. At this point, audience members may bring any item within the city's purview to the city council's attention. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes. State law prohibits the council from acting on items that do not appear on the agenda. Public comments for this meeting will also be conducted electronically. Any person interested in addressing the council may submit a comment by emailing recorder@harriman.org or by visiting harriman.org/agendas and minutes, where there's a link to fill out an online public comment form. Your statement will be incorporated into the public record. So I don't have any forms right now, but if anybody has a public comment tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to our council reports. Oh, I will excuse Councilman Henderson, who's dealing with a death in the family, and we extend our condolences to his family. Councilman Hodges is away for a work trip, but we do still have a quorum of 3, so we will carry on. So we will do council reports, and we'll start with Sherry tonight.
We had the Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District meeting Monday. Probably the biggest thing to report here is the SCRAP program, which is the seasonal container trash collection program. And hopefully it's okay. I opted Harriman into the new program we're starting. So if you tried to get a dumpster last year and they were all gone, you didn't get a chance to reserve one, you could have put your name on a list. It told you to put your name on a list. And if you put your name on that list, you got priority for this year. That way, it kind of makes it a little more fair. So people that got one last year could still get one this year, but the people who didn't get one last year that will get an extra day to reserve a dumpster. So hopefully that was okay. It just makes it more fair. So if you get your postcards in the mail, pay attention, because you might have an extra day if you put yourself on the reserve list for last year. So that's coming up. I don't know for sure exactly the date here, but
I like that.
that's about the only change, and we just went through some just policy stuff, but just review of the policy manual that we have to do every year. And then I was actually, I'm on the South Valley Chamber Board. We had a tour of the new aquarium expansion. It's crazy huge. They're gonna have tree kangaroos. I didn't know there were tree kangaroos, but these girls apparently do. Anyway, they'll have a display with tree kangaroos that will be in a display where they can climb and stuff, and then right adjacent to it will be a climbing place for the kids so they can climb like the tree kangaroos. So and then I want to say cloud leopards, they'll have a big display for them. Anyway, it's going to be super cool, so you'll have to take advantage of that in a different city, but still pretty cool.
Thank you, Sherry. Steve?
Under advisement from Jackie, I have no comments at this time.
We appreciate you heeding her advice. Thank you, Jackie. My only comment is, my only real meaning of significance, I'm on Transcom as well, the Transportation Coordinating Committee. Again, Harriman was at the top of the list for some money coming out for, out west here. So for that, finalizing the extension of Bacchus, the realignment of Bacchus from 118th or even 114th-ish down through to Main Street. So that's just one more step closer on that, which is, we should see that pretty soon. I think it's going to come to the city, I think, to build, right? Bacchus, part of it. So one step closer to getting some more transit out or some infrastructure needs on the west side of the city to maybe help people go north and south out that way. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Just by way of note, we did remove item 9.1 from the agenda, so we will move to item 10. 10.1, the public hearing tonight for consideration of a resolution amending the fiscal year 2025 budget. Kyle, did Jackie give you a time limit?
No, I can talk as fast
Okay.
as you want, as you probably know. Luckily tonight, Mayor, there aren't a lot of budget amendments as they have been in the past, but there are a few. If it will advance. Oh, there we go. It was off. Okay, so I'm just going to go over these in brief. Of course, if you have any questions, please let me know. In the general fund, there aren't too many amendments. One is the Youth Council was able to raise $210 at Night of Lights, so that will go into their budget. We've also received about $13,600 in reimbursements from insurance companies for damage to city property, so we credit that back to the department so they can fix what was damaged. One major thing was with the carryovers we did with the first budget amendment, I forgot to carry over funds for the economic development study that had been completed earlier this year. So that is a $30,000 expense. So that, out of the three items, will come from fund balance. The other two offset with an expense, so they don't have an impact. In public safety, so these adjustments aren't going to affect fund balance. As we had discussed in the last work meeting, the administrative law judge expenses have been higher than anticipated. So the police department proposed moving $4,000 from their general supplies budget and community services. And then working with police, we did discover our emergency manager has been working less than the hours that we budgeted for him. So the proposal, and this is a one-time transfer, we would transfer $5,000 from that wage line item over to the LJ line item to help cover that expense. As I said, this isn't ongoing, this is just one time for this year. In impact fee, there's a few master plans that have been coming in over budget. The first one is the park impact fee, so the Park and Trails master plan. When we receive those bids back, it's about $21,000 more than what we had put in the budget originally. We've found a lot of cities are doing these studies at the same time, which is driving up the cost since there are very few firms that do these studies. We had a similar situation in transportation impact fee. Our city engineer has gone out and gotten bids on what it will cost to redo the master plan that we discussed at a prior meeting. And it's going to be about $39,000 more than what we originally anticipated. Then the engineer had discussed at a prior meeting, we would like to move the $90,000 from the fiscal year 26 budget up to the fiscal year 25 budget so they can go ahead and do that master planning, largely due to both Olympia and then Panorama being proposed. That will make some significant changes to the existing plan that was done a few years ago.
So is the study 130,000?
Yes, that part, and then we have to have another consultant do and actually calculate the fees, called the IFFP part.
This isn't necessarily part of this conversation, but just a highlight to our state legislators that when they make changes to our zoning rules and laws, they waste $130,000 because then we have to go back out and redo it to adhere to the new things. So it's really important to understand that when you allow a political subdivision to be a political subdivision, but then you come in and change their master plans, it has real impact on their budgets. Anyway.
Great point.
Yeah, before you can spike when you say that.
Sorry, go ahead.
You are 100% correct. These studies are not inexpensive, and they are very time-consuming for staff, so.
Yeah,
well
that's
said.
just the, it
Yeah,
doesn't
that's just the
cost
cost.
all the, all staff time, for sure.
And then in the Development Services Fund, they're continuing to work and improve the system they're using for building permits, so this is additional programming time. They do have available fund balance to cover that. Moving on to capital projects and capital equipment. So one is we've received a development fee in lieu from a developer, so that means the city will complete the projects, and that's for Teton Ranch, so that is budgeting that fee in lieu. On a positive note, we did receive about $183,000 from vehicle sales, and then also another $17,000 from damage reimbursement. So the vehicle sales will be put into fund balance, and then we'll use that when the time comes to purchase new vehicles.
So not because we don't have enough on our agenda tonight, we need to make the meeting go longer, so I'll make another comment. The fee and lieu's always worry me from past experience. I just want to make sure that this fee and lieu actually pays for what the cost of it and that we're not going to be short on that. Are we good with that? What is this for?
So this is Teton Ranch, and this is their connection into the future 6400 West. And since 6400 West isn't built yet, they don't tie in the curb and the ADA ramps
Right.
yet. So, so we just collected a fee in lieu for that because we know the road is coming, but it isn't designed or isn't going to be built in the time that the development was. And so this was a way they could finish the subdivision, even though that future road of 6400 West from Harriman Boulevard up to Midas Creek isn't built yet.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I just don't
Yeah,
want us to
and
be
that's the intent.
having to make up the difference in the cost.
And you're right, with the fee in lieu, it's always hard to cover the cost because this is the contractor's cost to build that, right? And then city cost might be something different.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's exactly, we're going to have to come up with a different.
Moving on to our enterprise funds, one I did want to highlight is, so as you are aware, we received a grant from the Environmental Protection Agency to replace water lines in what we called Old Town. I call it I like historic better than Old Town. The historic area of Harriman. We did discover, as we were going through the process to start grant drawdowns, that they will not cover any design or engineering costs, so that is something the city will have to cover. So unfortunately, we will need to use fund balance to cover that. That was something both staff and the EPA did, well, the EPA knew, staff did not know. We don't have a lot of experience with grants through the EPA, so we wouldn't have known. And then they did have a sale of a vehicle in the water fund. In water rights, and I've highlighted this earlier, so I had been working on a full reconciliation of our impact fee funds. Working with our public works director, it was discovered that the water impact fee portion of an impact fee that's paid for water was actually going to the water right impact fee was being combined with the water impact fee and being all coded into water impact. So transfer is being proposed to transfer the funds that were recorded in the wrong fund into the correct fund. And then in addition to that, we did not have a budget set for water rights since we hadn't been coding it in the water right fund, so this sets a budget for the year. And then finally in stormwater, they did receive a FEMA grant of $299,250, which I believe the council's already approved. So this sets the budget and then puts that associated expenditure with it.
I assume that EPA grant is very project specific and we can't just figure out a way to attach it into a different project.
Yeah, EPA STAG money which is what we're using, state, tribal, and grants, infrastructure grants. It's very rigid. It only took us 2.5 years to get from being awarded to actually being able to start the project. So,
Yes.
and that's probably fast.
Well, we haven't actually successfully completed a drawdown yet, so I'm still working on that.
That's right.
And with that, are there any questions before the public hearing? Okay.
Nope.
Thank you.
we'll go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. See no comment, I'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Oh.
There's nobody else.
Motion by Steve, second by Sherry. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve resolution number R10-2025, approving an amendment to the 2024-2025 fiscal year budget.
Second.
Motion by Sherry, second by Steve. Steve?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion carries. Thank you, Kyle. Okay, we'll move on to item 11, our consent agenda tonight. Steve?
I'd just like to move item 11.2 off the consent agenda for discussion purposes.
Okay,
Second. Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move 11.2 off.
And then I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written for items 11.1 and 11.3, excluding item 11.2 for now.
Okay. Motion by Steve,
Second.
second by Sherry. Steve?
Yes.
Sherry?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes, that motion carries. Okay, we'll go to 11.2. Nathan, do you want to?
Yes, I'll go ahead. Justin is away, I think it's his daughter's last, she's a senior, I think, or her last opportunity for something for him to do, so I told him I would cover this if anything came up. So part of this process, we had planned several years ago, before I even started, they were looking at putting a public works facility on 5600. As we looked at that and its location close to houses, it's not an ideal location. It's kind of the wrong shape. So as we pulled off, that property is being discussed for something else. We're looking at how do we expand our function in Butterfield Park where we're at. So part of that was looking at what was already programmed, and frankly, I think the last programming was a little ambitious. Programming meaning, hey, what does this building need to include? And so this would be to start to outline some concepts that are affordable. So Kyle and I have talked about this, and I've talked with Justin Edwards as well. Before they start, I want to sit down with this architectural firm, and I think last time they're still design what we need, what we want, and we'll figure out how to pay for it. This time we're going to tell them, this is how much money we have. So design to that. One of the challenges, I think, when you're trying to plan a building, public building, is, well, how long do we have that planning vision for? You would like it to cover, if you're bonding it, at least last that long before you have to amend it, but there is a point where if you're not going to use it, you don't want today's taxpayers to have to bear that burden for a building you're not going to need for 30 years. The taxpayers in 30 years can pay they can figure it out then. And so we'll run this quite a bit different, but this is really to start, how can we utilize that property there without impacting the other functions that we're trying to do there? So they're supposed to come through, start looking at that area, and I think if you, in your staff report, we kind of highlighted the areas that we'll be looking at potentially for this area. Questions?
And so these funds are already allocated in the budget?
They are. We had money in here to start this process. So we start to get a sense for what is it really going to, so if we say we have $12 million, what does that get us? And does that get us to the spot where we need? So there'll be more, you'll have more opportunities as we go through this, but we've actually held this project just a little while. Justin is running the 103 project, State Fire Station, so kind of let him work through that process, and then we'll be really tackling this one. But this is to get this process started.
Just out of curiosity, because I don't recall that we've had a discussion about the scope or potential budget for something like this. What is the architect's instructions going to be for?
So at this stage, a lot of it is this programming, how much are we doing? We have had a number in the capital plan, in the CIP, and I think that's the 12 million. I'm looking at Kyle, if he remembers that number.
Right, it's the 12 million, but that was programmed prior to this reexamination. This was back when we were going to put it on 5600.
So that number's been kind of out there, but I think that's when you look, okay, how much can we actually carry? What would be the realistic? So that's really our direction. You bring up a good point. As they start to lay this out or start working through that, as we do our CIP conversation, that capital improvement plan, we need to talk about this realistically. What does this look like?
Yeah, I mean, because this site potentially is bigger than the site that they were gonna put the original, the concept for the Public Works building before.
Well, this is 7 acres, and we were on the 20, they were taking away some, there was like 5 that was coming off that for a park, and then 3 for, so this is probably about half the size.
It's half the size, okay.
About half the size. But I think really we need to be realistic about what goes there, how do we function? So we need to start outlining what this building looks like. Because it could be, hey, we have 12 million, we come back and it's a $20 million, that's what it would take, and we have to have a conversation, do we move forward or do we do something else? The last numbers we saw, I mean, when we were doing it with the police station, all that, I think we were 45, 50 million.
50 million or something like that.
Which was beyond anything the city could have done at that time, even from a bonding capacity. So the intent is start this process, start talking about what is realistically what's needed. This is actually toned down. The first design I had, we had like 15 of these acres highlighted, and we said, no, we're not touching that. Let's move it back. So we've already started trying to pull it back.
And so if I'm understanding correctly, this is sent out an RFP, you got some feedback, you selected a few to actually go forward with, and they gave you some bids. You scored them, weighted them, and you have somebody you want to move forward with. And then this is to award them the $80,000 to move forward with the conceptual plans.
Yeah, it's conceptual, and I think it even says schematic, where you start to lay out. So it's the programming, what does it actually take? There are some conceptual designs. It does say schematic, which is maybe that's that next step past concept, but there's going to be opportunities, because council, I think, is going to have to weigh in as we look at those budgets. I tend to be really conservative and utilitarian with buildings, so somebody probably needs to say, don't box. That's my level of design, but happy to, we can bring it back to you as we move through this process, because they're going to need to engage with council to make sure that we're not designing a building that has no chance of ever being built. Because I think that's what happened last time. We got so far down the process, when you saw it, there was just no way to build it.
So this is going to help us really
So this is
know
kind of
our
that
true,
initial
kind of our know our true
concepts. Here's
budget
what we
too.
think we're doing, here's what those costs would be, and then you start to get into, well, when you build that cost, you build the building, maybe you build the envelope and you don't finish a floor, right? You'll expand into that later if you need it, right? That's,
Basement.
this is build a basement in the building. So those kind of things will be laid out in this.
Part of my reason asking this question is when we did like the feasibility study for an arts facility, when you got input from all of the interested parties and all of their needs and their desires, you come up with an 80,000 square foot building that costs, $60 million to build. That's outside the scope of anything anybody could possibly accomplish, right? We could do with a lot less, right? And so that's when we're talking about spending money for this conceptual design part. My question has to do with the constraints that they're operating under, or are we even giving them constraints? Is it just say, we're gonna interview everybody, see what's actually needed, and then we're gonna tell you it's gonna cost, $123 million to build?
No,
That doesn't
they're
help
gonna
us,
have constraints.
Okay.
They'll have constraints. I intend, this is not gonna, Justin's gonna run it, but I intend to poke periodically to make sure that we don't get there, and if I don't, then Kyle will. One of us will be the rainy cloud of, yeah, that's a nice, wonderful plan, don't do that, do this instead. and when it comes back to you, that'll be part of that conversation. There will be a moment where you decide, yes, we'll do that, or we don't want to move forward with that next step. But that's, at this point, I can't even give you that because I don't,
Yeah,
this is a totally different
okay.
site, different location. And the programming that was done before, some of it's okay, some of it's, they were using build-out populations of 150,000. That's in 10 years, we're not going to be that, ever. We might be 120, but we will never be 150, and it's probably not in 10 years, that's probably in 20 years. We'll be coming back to you as we work through this, but we intend to manage this project a little bit more.
Okay, I guess my final comment would be, aspirationally, I would like this to actually be something that helps move a reasonable project forward and doesn't just become a lost dump of money into some fantasy that never materializes.
Understood.
Okay.
Okay,
And all the same concerns, ditto.
okay. Give me a motion. Let's get out of here by 7:30.
Motion to approve item number 11.2 as written. Is that good enough? Okay.
Motion by Steve. Second by Sherry. Steve?
Yes.
Sherry? And I vote yes, that motion carries. Okay, that brings us to the close of our meeting tonight. Future meetings, next Planning Commission meeting, March 5th, 7 o'clock. Next City Council meeting is March 12th, at 7 o'clock. There is a community arts showcase at Harriman High School on Saturday night at 7 o'clock. Really cool. The different schools are coming together, our arts council. Really cool event coming up. So that's at Harriman High School, Saturday night, 7 o'clock. With that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.